Today on Thrive Smarter, we're focusing on prompts and how to get the most out of your AI chat interactions to support your business goals. Hi, I'm Cree, host of Thrive Smarter and founder of Thrive Solopreneur Collective. This is where we start the conversation, and at the end of this episode, join me over in the community where we'll keep the conversation going. Let's get ready to thrive. We are going to talk about the anatomy of a prompt in today's episode. But before we do that, I'm going to share a little bit about myself, give you some perspective about my background, and it's going to help you understand where I'm coming from when I share some advice that I'm going to share with you today when it comes to using technology, especially new technology in your business, kind of how you can prepare if things go south. And again, I'll give you a little more context later on in the episode. But first, I'm going to take you back a whole lot of years. One of my first big jobs out of college was working for a .com. And now that that's been a very long time ago, we all know what happened with that industry. It was an absolutely crazy time. And it feels a lot like what's happening now. We have new technology that's coming out. A lot of this reminds me of the advent of the internet and how we as consumers approached that technology and how we used it. And it really felt like the Wild West. Now, the exciting part about that and working in the technology industry, starting off with the implosion of the .com industry and then working in tech for close to 25 years after that, is it was a very exciting time. It meant that I got to work on new technology that came out. I was on teams and was responsible for building a lot of that new technology. And because it was changing all the time, I got to work in different aspects of that tech and really learn about it. It really wasn't like it is today where people had a specific job, like you had a software developer and that's all they did, or you had somebody who wrote requirements and that's all they did, or you had a salesperson and that's all they did. Basically, whoever was available and had the bandwidth, we just kind of hopped in and got it done. And that sounds crazy because it was. And I think things run a lot more efficiently these days. But all this to say, that's what it feels like right now as AI is taking hold and we are using it more and more in our everyday lives. And if you're tuning into this episode, you're a solopreneur or a business owner, and you are probably either using this technology now or will in the future. And we're going to talk about a good approach to take because things will change, things will evolve, and you as a solopreneur you have to adjust and change your business based on that. And we'll talk a little bit about how to best protect yourself and your assets as a business owner, protect your time and your money as well. And then we'll also go through what I'm calling the anatomy of a prompt, kind of what that looks like today. And the hope is that when you are using AI and using these tools like ChatGPT or Claude or anything else that's out there on the market right now, you're feeling a little more comfortable doing it. So that's a little bit of background. And now with all that said, let's talk about the types of AI tools that are available to you, things that you're probably hearing if you're on social media or in the news right now. There's a couple of different types of AI we're starting to work with, and we'll go over that next. Tools like ChatGPT and Claude use a type of AI called generative AI. Generative AI is essentially searching for information that is available to them. And most of these tools are depending on all of the information that's out on the internet so that whatever prompt you use or question you ask in the tool, it's going to search as much information as it has at its disposal, and it's going to provide you an answer. So that is generative AI. It's comparable to a search engine. The big difference is that if you probably have been using a search engine, you can just search one thing at a time. Because of the nature of AI now is you can actually feed it more information at one time and get a more comprehensive answer. Additionally, it's called chat for a reason because you can have an ongoing conversation with these tools. So if you don't put all of your information in the original ask or the original prompt, then you can continue to feed the tool information. And that's where the chat aspect comes into play. Now, there's another type of AI that you're probably hearing about now. It's called AI agents. AI agents are specifically built using whatever information you provide for that agent. And what happens is it's just going to pull information from the information you provide. It's not going to typically isn't going to incorporate like information that's on the internet or other data sources. So what you can do is you can build out more specific agents. So if you're looking for, an assistant to help you with your business, or if you're looking for something to help you just with social media or something like that, then you can build specific agents for that. Now, for the sake of this episode, we're just going to be talking about generative AI, and we will leave the topic of AI agents for another day. So as I've already mentioned, generative AI, or if you use ChatGPT or Claude and you interact with these tools, just a reminder, they are pulling information out from the internet. So the more original information you provide to these tools, that means relevant information about you, your branding, the way that you might teach a certain topic, or maybe you have a unique product. That's your original information. So keep in mind when you are using these tools, the more original information you provide to the tools, the more the output is going to sound like you. If you give it a generic prompt, a very, a generic input, then it's going to sound more like whatever the tool finds on the internet. And that's when you start to sound a lot like everybody else who's using these tools. So my advice to you is to feed these tools as much original information as you can. We'll go into that in a little more detail here in a minute. And then these tools will remember that information. If you're using Claude, then you can start a project and you can actually store all relevant information within that project. I think Claude does a great job at kind of organizing this concept. When it comes to ChatGPT, they also have projects, but when you feed it information, you just feed it as you're using the tool, but it will store and remember whatever it is that you recall. So as I mentioned earlier, and also in the last episode, we are in a very tumultuous time when it comes to using AI and these new tools. In fact, a lot of people are saying that they have recently jumped ship from ChatGPT to Claude. And I'm just here to say that due to my tech background, my prediction is that some of the tools we're using now will not be around in the future. Soros is a great example of this. That's the tool that the owners of ChatGPT had out and available for us to use. You could feed it a prompt and it would create a video based on that prompt. And they have since shut that tool down. So what do you do in this situation? What if tomorrow you woke up and ChatGPT went away? Well, I shared my background earlier because while I was working in the .com industry way back when, and when I was working, when we were just building applications and websites online, I saw a lot of this. Netscape Navigator was one of the first browsers that went away, and then we went to AOL, and then we went to Google. And so you as a business owner, just be aware that things are going to change. These tools do store your information, but it's up to you to organize that information. And my advice is to store and collect whatever information you feed into these tools, create a folder on your computer, and share that same information into a folder. That way, if you have to change tools at some point in time, you have all of the information that you have shared with either ChatGPT or Claude, or insert tool name here. And then if you need to move to a different tool, you have all of that information stored in one spot, and then you can educate the tool by uploading it. So generative AI means that when you put a prompt in, it's going to pull information from those data sources, and you want these tools to have as much information as possible on you and your business, so that when you start interacting with these tools, again, it's going to sound more like you. So enough with the background, and we'll move on from this advice. But this is how I do recommend navigating the change of tools. And trust me when I say this will happen, because we are so early on in this technology. And I really want you all to be prepared. All right, let's talk about prompts. Writing a prompt can feel intimidating. I think a lot of us think that we just need to have everything in one prompt so that we can get the most out of the response. Remember what I shared earlier, these are chats. So take a little bit of pressure off yourself when you are writing a prompt. And I think they're also intimidating because if you're on social media like I am, you see samples of prompts often. And I'm just going to say that most of those prompts really aren't going to get you where you need to go. And here's an example. I'm going to read one of them right here. So scrolling on social media, and this in all capital letters, illegal, 7 ChatGPT prompts you should know in 2026. They're not illegal. They're just unfair if you know how to ask. And one of the prompt examples is saying that, you can upgrade your strategy, whatever it is, by 10 times if you use this prompt. Take this plan, and you would paste your plan, and rebuild it at a 10 times level. Show me how a top performer would think, position, and execute differently. So this is a great example of a prompt sample that I see shared on social media very often. And I think what happens is you go over to ChatGPT, you open it up, you upload your plan, you write in that prompt, and the result you get doesn't look like it's going to 10 times anything. And in fact, it doesn't really give you anything that is pertinent to your business or the mission or the goal that you're trying to achieve. So with that said, there's a little bit of legwork that you want to do before you write your first prompt in the first place. And this is the approach I take. So the first thing I want to do before I write a prompt is I want to make sure that I'm giving the tool context. And you can do that either by creating a new project and uploading the context to that project. And as I mentioned before, that's great to do in a tool like Claude. They do a really good job at storing all of that information in one place. With ChatGPT, you're just going to upload that information as you start your first prompt, and you can start a new project so everything is organized in one place in the user interface. But by context, what I mean is give it everything, all of the information that you have about your business, branding, who your target audience is. Give it as many writing samples as you can so that it can understand your tone and your voice. Outline all of your products, your services, details, all of the above. Upload that all to the project, because remember that generative AI, when it gives a prompt result, it's going to pull information from the internet, and it's also going to take into consideration whatever it is you share with it. If you share nothing, it's just going to pull information from the internet. Now, the prompt sample that I just shared with you is going to do just that. Because you didn't give the tool any context about your business, it's just going to pull information from the internet, and that's why you're not getting the results that you need. So that's the next thing you want to do, is let it know the type of expert you'd like for it to be. So if you are looking to work on social media strategy, then you can state that. These prompts that are online, they actually do a good job at including that in the prompt. Act like a sales manager of a large size organization. Act like the operations manager or something like that. Now, for you, I want you to be super specific. The type of expert you're looking for is a social manager that specializes in your industry, or a social media manager that has the experience to target your audience, and insert your audience information there. So be super specific about the type of expert you're looking for. And then the next thing that you want to do is write out all of the requirements that you are looking to get out of the response. Sometimes this could be a really long list, but anything you can think of that has to do with whatever it is that you're asking these tools to do for you, you want to write out all of those requirements. And it's basically just a laundry list of what you're expecting. For example, if you are looking for help with a social media strategy, some of the requirements that you might list, and you want to be very specific here, the type of expert you're looking for to create your social media strategy, the industry you're working in. You could even put in some competitors so that ChatGPT or Claude knows to emulate whatever those strategies might look like. You can also list things like the number of characters you want in the content, how you want the branding to look and feel, the cadence, how many times per week or month are you going to post, and also your hashtags. Like anything that you can think of in terms of requirements. Take some time before you do your prompt to list all of those out. All you have to do is copy and paste them into the prompt. And again, you're just giving more context to these tools so that they can give you a better response. And then finally, clearly define the outcome you desire. How do you want this information to be presented to you? So in this case, it could look something like outline this social media marketing strategy in a spreadsheet with all of the information clearly outlined in rows and columns based on the requirement. And the more clear you can be about the outcome, the closer you're going to get to your result. Now, don't forget, we're talking about a chat here. So if you see a result and you quickly realize you may have forgotten a requirement or forgotten to include some type of context, or maybe the result doesn't sound enough like you, then what you can do is just continue to have a conversation in that chat, make whatever adjustments you need to make. And don't worry, remember, this is a chat. So if you don't get everything right on the first go around, then continue on with your conversation and refine the results. So if for some reason the tone doesn't sound like you, then ask for ChatGPT to refer to the writing samples so it does sound a little bit more like you. Or maybe you forgot a requirement, so you can ask it to consider a new requirement or some type of a situation that you've encountered in the past. And you can also ask ChatGPT to review your marketing plan and suggest any improvements. So have an ongoing conversation. One prompt and one result isn't really going to get you where you need to go. So that's the approach that I recommend you take. I promise AI isn't going to be the only topic that we focus on here in Thrive. Now, you as a solopreneur or business owner, these are a couple of tools that are available for you to use. They are very effective, and right now they're very popular because they're brand new. But there are a ton of other tools out there that really help you to make your business run efficiently and really ultimately give you more time to work on whatever it is that you need to work on in your business. So we will be talking about AI prompts in the next Thrive Live. Head on over to community.thrivesoloco.com and join us over there. We'll continue the conversation. And in the next Thrive Live, bring your best prompt. I would like to see what it looks like. Also bring the outcome. Let me know how it's working for you. I'm going to be doing some fun activities where I'm going to test some of the prompts that people share on social media, and we'll see if they work or not. So that's what's happening over here at Thrive Solopreneur Collective. Thank you so much for joining and tuning in to today's episode. We'll see you in the next one.